There's a lot of information out there on how to keep your dog safe in the heat, but I'm going to try to add on some information for adventure dogs, camping dogs, hiking dogs. I hope this helps you. Please keep in mind, I am not a veterinarian, but I am a wilderness first responder for humans and am pet first aid certified. And I run my own business where I take dogs into the wilderness for adventures in large packs. But that being said, if you have any serious questions or concerns or need additional resources, please contact the appropriate people. So we're just going to start with the basics, some obvious things, but we're going to work up to a more advanced level.
Number 1, your dog releases heat from their body through their mouth. It's common sense, but I see often a lot of people aren't paying attention to that when they're hiking. They're too busy on their phone or they're too busy talking with their hiking partner and they're kind of ignoring their dog's needs.
I'm going to interrupt myself by saying this is the main problem, that people ignore the needs of their dogs, or they say, oh, no, he's fine, just keep going. They want to get to their goal and they kind of ignore the dog. This is why I devote myself to the dogs entirely by having silent hikes. I don't have any interruptions whatsoever, so I can focus entirely on the dogs.
So please, number 1 is be aware of your dog's panting. Number 2 is your dog also sweats through their paws. So if you're going to put booties on their paws in the summertime or in hot weather, please make sure that they're breathable. Very important. It's another way that they release heat from their body. Number 3 is don't assume that if you take your dog to the beach that it's a good place in the summer or hot weather because it feels cool to you, right? You think, oh, the beach is a great place. No, the sand is very hot in the sun. So make sure you touch the sand with your own hands, the sand that's in the direct sun, and make sure that it's an appropriate temperature. If you're not going to be swimming with your dog the entire time and you're going to be walking on the sand, you really have to take that into account. People bring their dogs to the beach often and don't realize really how hot the sand is. And sand can cause pretty bad burns, not just on the external part of the paw pads, but because it kind of sinks in between the paws, it can make really red, irritated, uncomfortable, sort of hot friction burns on the insides of their toes as well.
Honestly, I feel that humans should take off their shoes while they are walking to the beach because that's the main moment in time when the sand is super hot. They're walking down the beach to where they're going to sit and they don't realize because they're wearing shoes. So I recommend take off your shoes. If your dog has to walk barefoot, so should you. And that way, every human will know exactly what their dog is experiencing.
Okay, number 4 is about rock surfaces. So just because a rock is next to a lake or a stream or a river has nothing to do with the actual temperature of the rock itself. It could be right next to a very cold stream and it's going to be a boiling hot rock. So you really have to test every single surface with your hand. I really recommend sticking to the shade no matter what. I'm going to add on a little addendum to the topic of surfaces. If you're walking your dog on a sidewalk or on the cement or any other surface for that matter, and they're on leash and they're pulling you more than they usually do on a really hot day, it's probably because their paws are uncomfortable. And that is a strategy they will use because they're very intelligent in their bodies to just move faster and not touch the surface for too long. So if you can, pick up the pace. That'll really help them. And of course, don't keep going. Make sure you go to a place that's cooler because they are clearly uncomfortable.
Here's a special tip for those of you who really do adventures with your dogs. You go backpacking, you do big hikes. Here's a tip for you.
Something else to add here is if you are backpacking with your dog and you're let's say summiting a peak, a mountain, when you get nearer to the top, it's often very sharp and the rock becomes really much rougher on their paws. Also, there's more exposure. So that means that it's going to heat up a lot in a stronger way. You're not going to be in the shade anymore once you're past, you're in alpine, or higher. basically, you want to wrap up your dog's paws using Co-Band or athletic tape, some sort of comfortable padding, or use booties, again, with airflow in the booties, to protect their paws if you're summiting the mountain, because it is going to get a lot rougher up there. And of all the places that my personal dogs have had paw issues, they don't have paw issues when we're hiking every single day normally, but when we summit mountains, that's when the issues come up. So big tip is when you're packing your backpack and packing your gear, make sure in your first aid kit you have plenty of supplies to keep their paws nice and happy when you're summiting those mountains. Certain surfaces that are pretty neutral are, for example, wood. So if you can find an awesome place that has log jams or a lot of maybe bark or mulch, or a similar kind of thing, that's going to be a much lower temperature than other surfaces. So if you know of a good area with a trail that has a lot of bark mulch, or tree debris or logs to climb over, that's going to be a lot healthier for your dog's paws.
In other words, when I'm planning adventures for my dog packs in the summer, I'm always thinking about the surface. I'm thinking, how much sun does that area get? Is there shade? At what time during the day is it shaded? Is there ground cover of wood? And that's how I plan my day.
Number 5 is your dog will stand where you stand. So if you stand in the water, they will stand in the water as well. So wear proper shoes and plan to do a stream walk or an activity that's actually in the water to help keep their paws nice and healthy and keep their bodies cool. And for those people who like backpacking and camping, make sure that you wake up really early with the sun so that you can set off to achieve your goal during the cooler hours of the day and not do most of your mileage, especially on exposed terrain later in the day. Number 6, a good way to cool your dog down is if you carry a towel with you and you submerge the towel in water if your dog's not a swimmer, and then put the towel on top of them while they're laying in the shade. So if you need to cool your dog down really quickly, if you're a little concerned about them, or you just want to help them to cool down more quickly, you can try that. You can put a cold, wet towel on their belly. Make sure they're drinking lots of water all the time, and just help maybe pour water on top of their body. If they're not the kind of dog that wants to swim actively, just dunk water on top of their body if they're standing in a stream. So some people might consider putting their dog into a cool body of water if they are starting to overheat. Maybe their body temperature has reached that critical and very dangerous level of 104 to 106 is really bad. A dog's normal body temperature is 100 degrees to 102. And most people don't carry a thermometer to check their dogs in the wilderness, but it's good information to have just in case if you do have a thermometer in your first aid kit. But if you want to submerge your dog, you have to be very careful about that. You don't want to cause them to have hypothermia in the reverse for body temperature. You need to do that really mindfully and be really aware of their bodily responses and reactions, and make sure the timing of that is appropriate. I do think it's better to generally just put them standing in water and to put water on top of them so that you don't have any issues there unless the temperature again is appropriate. Even better yet is just a simple tip to dunk them and then take them out. Dunk them again, but don't keep them for a prolonged period of time in cold water. All right, tip number 7, always make sure your dog is wearing a baseball hat and sunglasses.
Okay, that was a joke. FYI, don't do that. Well, you could, but it's not going to help anything. On second thought, the whole doggy goggle thing is really trendy right now, so go for it.
However, one good thing to do is if your dog has exposed skin, or like my previous dog had lupus and she had a raw nose, I would put sunblock on her nose, like a zinc type of sunblock. It's a good thing to protect their skin, and you need to protect their skin if they have thin fur or they're exposed. So you can either use a thin cooling type vest or type, not really, I don't want to say jacket, but some sort of attire made for dogs. Or you can use sunblock on them. Make sure it's safe for pets, of course, and not tested on animals. Okay, so this is another touchy subject, but number 8B. This one's important because a lot of people with flat-faced dogs seem to think that just because their dog breathes heavy all the time or really often, they think that it's normal and fine and that the dog is perfectly healthy. But really, that is not the case. It's a sign that the dog regularly struggles to breathe and cool their body down. And so, it's not okay to let a dog like that go hiking and then have an increased heart rate, breathing rate, and respiratory rate. It's actually very dangerous for them. So at this point, I won't take flat-faced dogs on any of my adventures for that reason. If they already have trouble breathing doing normal things, they should not be hiking, and they should not especially be hiking in hot weather. Okay, so I think we're on number 9, and number 9 is a bit of a touchy subject, but it has to be said. Heat illnesses, heat stroke, heat exhaustion, they are cumulative. So that means if your dog regularly goes out on adventures, on hikes, on walks with you or with someone you hire, keep in mind they need to be drinking and cool day after day after day, because if they are not and it starts to build up, just like with people, it could then hit on the 3rd day, let's say, the 2nd day, where something goes wrong. So keep in mind, the signs you should look for heat illness, heat stroke, even just a minor, like they seem a little off. And if they do, and they've done other activities, don't send them again the next day or the day after that.
As a little footnote, the only time that I've had an experience in this arena, really, in a serious way, is when the parent did not tell me and did not listen to the signs the dog was giving that they were experiencing the very, very early stages of heat exhaustion and heat stroke.
I'm going to add a little something to number 9. That means if they're going out with me specifically, please, you have to let me know if they have gone out with you or somebody else in the day before or the day before that. You need to keep me informed about the other activities that they've done that week, because I will determine, hey, it's too much. I don't think they should go out with me then. Or you should regulate, and maybe they shouldn't go on 3 hikes that week, but they should only go on 1. So just be thoughtful about your weekly schedule with your dog during the hottest months of the summer. So number 10 is dogs do not always have the self-awareness to really take care of themselves appropriately. For example, I have 2 puppies with me today, youngish dogs, adolescents, Gruner and Ranger. They like to play with each other a lot. They run and chase, they pester each other, and they just keep going. And so a dog like that, you really have to keep your eye on them. We like to think, they're wild animals, like they, should be able to self-regulate and take care of themselves. But domestic dogs really can't. I mean, they have not had the life experiences and been put in those environments to learn those skills. So we really have to be their advocates and on top of paying attention to them and making sure they take breaks, they take time to pause, drink, rest. And if you need to leash your dog or have them go into a sit or a down and stay there for a little bit to calm down, definitely do it. So what are the signs of heat illness? First, there's heat exhaustion, and then there is heat stroke. Heat stroke is the more advanced stages. So you want to, of course, monitor your dog's breathing, of course. That is going to be your first indicator that there is a problem. When it gets more advanced, they will have a lot more trouble breathing. It's going to become much more like a reaction rather than normal breathing. It's more like, you know, it's just like, it's almost like a machine is working the body so hard to get it cooler. It's a noticeable shift often. Then there might be diarrhea or vomiting. The dog's gums might be bright red. They may have a seizure or, you know, be unable to move, etc., etc. Their heart rate, of course, will be increased as well. Look into this for a more exhaustive list and description of what to look for, but here's some of the obvious and basic signs. At that point, you must seek medical attention. It's an emergency. So, of course, like usual, the issue is prevention. Of course. I really hope this doesn't happen to any of you or your dog. Here's a quick list of things that you should pack in your dog's backpack. If you're going hiking or backpacking, they should carry their own stuff for sure. But you need to train them to do that ahead of time. Don't just throw on a backpack, you know, onto their back and expect that everything's going to be fine. They really need to be trained ahead of time to wear it and to feel comfortable. You have to make sure that the fit is correct and that it's not rubbing anywhere. But train them to carry their own backpack at first without any weight and then add weight. Have them definitely carry their own water. That's going to be the heaviest thing in their pack related to, you know, heat stuff. Then, of course, as we discussed, a cooling shirt for them if they need it. That will also protect them if they have exposed skin or thin hair. An SPF that's appropriate for them if needed. As I said, their water and booties and or emergency wraps, co-band, athletic tape, pads, nonstick pads, if you're going to be on terrain. I mean, really, I think people should carry it no matter what, but especially if you know that your dog's feet are vulnerable. Well, thanks for watching, and I hope you learned something that will be helpful to you and your pup. And if you have any questions and you're one of my clients, just text me. And if not, you can always reach out to me if you want to, you know, have your dog go on adventures with us if you live in Portland at wildpupadventure.com. All right, take care. Don't forget to check out wildpupadventure.com. And subscribe to our YouTube channel to get more awesome videos like this.